Hello, Professor Gentner and classmates. This is Jorge R. Silva. This is my Psych 613 Group 2 Week 8 presentation, Managing Referral and Termination. The end of the performance consultant and client relationship is a difficult phase for the client. Perhaps the second most difficult one, next to actually making the decision to try out performance consulting in the first place and pour your heart out to a complete stranger. Performance consultants call the end of providing services termination, which doesn't help in the let's give this a warm fuzzy feeling name to make it sound as least scary as possible department. In everyday society, we typically terminate bugs or contracts, not relationships. But that's psychology for you. Always promoting psychobabble when simply calling it ending performance consulting would have been enough. Most consultants and client relationships end mutually, however, which makes them a little bit easier to handle, but not much. No matter what the reason the relationship may be ending, the natural end of course of sessions for a specific performance issue, consultant or client moving, a change of pricing. Here are 10 tips to make the transition easier for both consultant and client. Number 1, understand the process. While many psychotherapy professionals are good about explaining the termination process, some are not. Termination starts with a discussion whether it might be a good time to end performance consulting. Although it is usually begun by the consultant, sometimes clients will get the ball rolling too, especially if they feel like they're no longer getting anything from professional consulting sessions. After the discussion, if both parties have agreed to end consulting sessions, a date is chosen, usually many weeks out. In these sessions between the initial decision and the chosen end date, the consultant spends time discussing how the client is feeling about the end of performance consulting. Goals of performance consulting are discussed and the progress made on those goals. The performance consultant will also offer or often review the techniques learned during the sessions and strategies to ensure the client can rely on those techniques and tools in the future without the consultant's help. A final session ends the process. Number 2, bring it up early. Most experienced performance consultants are trained to start the termination process early, far earlier than most clients are probably used to or even comfortable with. Some performance consultants may start talking about it as far out as 10 or 12 sessions from the end, especially for longer term sessions. This is a good thing. It gives time for the client time to get comfortable with the idea, and it gives the client time to get anxious. Anxiety that can be dealt with in the remaining performance consulting sessions. Number 3, pick a final session date. This is connected to bringing it up early. The performance consultant should work with the client on picking the date of their final session. It is best to choose this date together to ensure it's not too early for the client or that it doesn't interfere with some other commitment either the consultant or client may not know about. Such a date also acts as a mutual goal that the consultant and client will work toward in the remaining sessions. Number 3, pick a final date for a session. The performance consultant should work with the client on picking the date of the last session. It is best to choose this date together to ensure it's not too early or that it doesn't interfere with some commitments. Such a date also acts as a mutual goal the both of you will work toward in remaining sessions. Number 3, pick a final session date. The performance consultant should work with the client on picking the date of the last session. It is best to choose this date together to ensure it's not too early or that it doesn't interfere with some commitments. Such a date also acts as a mutual goal the both of you will work toward in remaining sessions. Number 4, hear the client out. Ending a consultant and client relationship is just as difficult as ending any relationship in life. That means the client is likely going to experience mixed emotions about the end of the relationship with the consultant. That's normal. But it's even better if the client finds a way to express those feelings to the consultant. Sometimes the end of performance consulting brings up a new issue that hasn't emerged yet in sessions. This gives both consultant and client time to work on these things, if work is needed while there's still time. Number 5, anger and anxiety are normal. It's perfectly normal for the client to feel anger, anxiety, or a host of other emotions after the consultant has suggested it might be time to end the relationship. Give the client the opportunity to express them, either by writing them out or voicing them. Whatever works for the client. Let the client share these feelings. Whenever the client feels relief to express these feelings for him or herself. Number 6, let the client ask questions. Sometimes the end of performance consulting brings up questions about the future. The client might ask, what if I relapse? Who do I call? Can I start performance consulting with the same consultant in the future if the need arises? Any books or self-help activities recommended to help with everyday coping? Can the consultant give me a referral to another performance consultant that is recommended? Sometimes the client might get flustered or feel embarrassed to ask such questions at the end of performance consulting. They might, or give them the opportunity to ask questions that they might have, since this may be the last chance they might have to have a mental health professional opinion or help with them. Number 7, is the client ready? Some people may not be ready to end performance consulting. The consultant should talk to the client sooner rather than later if this is the case. The client should also have to try to separate out the feelings of I'm not ready to do this versus this is making me very anxious, but it feels like it's the right time. Just because talking about ending the relationship makes the client feel anxious or uncomfortable doesn't mean it isn't right. But if the client is not ready to end it because, for instance, the client have more work to do or more to learn, let it be. Most performance consultants will respect the sense of whether it's right or not and continue working with the client. The last session should be face-to-face. The final session, as with most performance consulting, is done face-to-face. Although some clients end up canceling their last session with the feeling of, why bother, we're done, so let's be done with it already. It's best to stick with it and for the client to attend the last session even if they don't feel like it. Like ending any positive relationship, it is usually best to have one last final goodbye. It helps with closure, as consultants like to say. Number 9, final session. There is no normal way a final session goes. Each performance consultant has his or her way of doing it. It may involve a sort of encapsulating the months or years of consulting sessions spent together and ensuring the client is ready to move on with his or her life. Especially long-term or close consulting relationships may end with a hug if both parties agree, but shorter-term, solution-focused consulting will often end more business-like with a handshake or best wishes. And number 10, termination is not the end. Although the word suggests an ending, termination really is the start of a new beginning for the client. They are once again on their own in the world without the comfortable and safe check-in with the consultant. And while that initially may be a little scary or sad, it marks another stage or transition in the client's life that can be embraced if they choose. As the old saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and that includes performance consulting too. Rest assured that if the client needs to return to performance consulting in the future, a good performance consultant will be waiting for them. And this is the end of my presentation. I want to say thank you, Professor Jetner and Psych 613 classmates, for viewing my presentation, and I want to wish you the best of luck to all of us. Thank you.